I've said in the past that I'm not one to really sit down and enjoy a puzzle game for the most part. Puzzles in games are fine, but a whole game of them has always been something that I've found troubling to buy into. Even with that though, the two games in the puzzle platformer genre that have always caught my eye are Playdead's Limbo and Inside. Something about the look of these games really piqued my interest. For one reason or another though, the moment to sit down and play them always eluded me. Something else would catch my eye, or I'd be too tired to put that much thought into a game, and they would just be pushed down the pile. A few days ago though, I was really just kind of bored, nothing was catching my eye, until I finally saw Limbo, and knew that it was time to just dive in and see why this game is so highly touted all these years later. I'll say now that I will be talking about my theories for the stories of both Limbo and Inside in this video. There's no truly correct theory, so I'll just give a light, general spoiler warning for these games. In both games, you play as two separate little boys. But in Limbo, there's no real visible features outside of his bright white eyes. You come to at the start of the game, and your journey begins through this world that harbors many dangers, including a massive spider and a tribe of kids that set traps and try and kill you. From a gameplay perspective, I think Limbo is a very good game, but not a great one. The puzzles are good, but there aren't really any systems to make me go, oh, this is really cool and creative, outside of a few individual puzzles. I think the closest the game gets is the later portion with the gravity puzzles. You can turn the gravity on and off, and it'll flip you to an upside down perspective when it's off. It honestly just doesn't last long enough to really maximize the concept though, in my opinion. There's more meat left on the bone, so to speak. There's only really one system in the game that I would say is outright bad, and it's the mind controlling bugs. It's these bugs that lodge their way into your brain and control where you move, which makes for time spent backtracking until you find a light that will make the bug turn around and send you back the way you came. I just didn't really enjoy the feeling of having to backtrack. I found it tedious, but it really only happens a handful of times, so it didn't hurt my experience too much. While reading around online, I've seen people talk about the movement feeling awkward or like it hasn't aged very well, but I honestly couldn't disagree more. I think the movement and the platforming is pretty good and made for a nice feeling of comfort in between the confusion I felt trying to figure out all the puzzles. Now, from an atmosphere perspective, this game absolutely nails it. The world of Limbo is a dark one, literally, aesthetically, and metaphorically. Looking at the game from a metaphorical perspective is where I think it really starts to shine. It became clear to me pretty early on into the game that the boy is dead, and the world is some sort of purgatory or, you guessed it, limbo. As I said before, you start the game with the boy coming to in this world. That, along with the general darkness and ambiguity of the world, led me to the conclusion that he is in fact dead. As you play the game, the mission seems to be to find a little girl that you only get a few glimpses of as you're on your journey, but beyond that, the rest of the story is pretty much up for interpretation. The theory that I landed on at the end of the game is that this boy and this girl, presumably his sister, but who knows, were in their treehouse, and as they were climbing down, the ladder broke and they died. The boy wakes up in what I see again as a purgatory between life and the afterlife. You make your way through the world, and as you finally meet your sister, who presumably ran all this way out of the same fear you felt, the game ends. The credits roll, and once they're concluded, you're left with the sound of flies buzzing around their corpses on the ground. It's a brutal close to a fascinating game. Moving on to Inside, the follow-up to Limbo that was released 6 years after Limbo. As glowingly as I talked about Limbo, Inside is such a vast improvement, so much so that it fully inspired this video because I just had to talk about these games. I enjoyed them so much. The movement is just as smooth, if not more smooth than Limbo, but I think where the improvement is really shown is with the puzzles. There are multiple systems in this game that made for some of the most satisfying light bulb moments I've ever had while playing a video game. Whether it's the mind control elements, the water level puzzles, the submarine portion, just so many great ideas in this game that are really capitalized upon and pushed to make you look at them differently on multiple different occasions. I want to really highlight the mind control puzzles though, and say that they were without a doubt the most fun I had in both Limbo and Inside. They're so creative, and the process of moving what are essentially mind controlled slaves around to figure out each puzzle really tested me, and it just made for such a great time. Aesthetically, there aren't many games out there that nail their aesthetics as well as Inside does. While Limbo is more direct with its dark, scary vibe, Inside is much more abstract in how it makes you feel the eerie, dystopian world that you're in. There's very clearly something awry, but what exactly it is can't be nailed down until much later into the game, and even then my conclusion isn't really a solid one. All of the environments, whether it's in the woods to start, the random beaches you traverse, the seemingly endless depths under the water, and the many, many facilities, they all give you a feeling of dread that I absolutely adore. The sound design is absolutely incredible as well and contributes to that feeling exponentially, specifically the sounds of the people that you control while doing puzzles. The grunts they make are so indiscernible, but the sounds of their bodies hitting each other as they mindlessly walk around in groups or hit the ground. It just really drives home that dread, but adds a feeling of true nastiness to everything as well. I am admittedly still a bit lost on the story aspect of Inside though. It's clear that there's some kind of mind control test happening. The people you control are essentially empty vessels. They have no thoughts or desires to speak of. They exist only when you or the people running the test say they do. Naturally, it's easy to think that this boy is an escaped test subject, which is what I thought for about 95% of the game. That aspect of it seems pretty surface level. However, as you get towards the end of the game, and I'll again put a big spoiler warning out there, you encounter a blob made up of a bunch of different humans, and in an effort to unplug this blob from some sort of system, you become one with it and you help this blob escape the facility. It was at this point that I totally lost any kind of understanding of what was going on, and from this point forward, this is me simply repeating some internet theories that I think fully add up. From the get-go, I believe that the boy is being used as a test subject, even as a supposed escapee. I believe that you're not only connected but controlled by this monstrosity to help it escape the facility, and that in itself is the test being run on you. I think the piece of evidence that makes me believe this so strongly is actually the alternative ending, in which instead of becoming one and helping the blob escape, you unplug the mind control device that the blob is using, thus pulling the plug on yourself. Now, I didn't get that ending. I helped the blob escape and watched the credits roll as it laid motionless on the shore of a sunlit beach. The moment where I found and became the blob was a true what the fuck moment for me. It's so gross, so vulgar, that it honestly was such a huge tone shift that it kind of took me out of the game for a moment. It's like the ending of The Substance, where Elizabeth Sparkle was revealed to be a monstrosity of a person. It was so far out of left field that it actually took me out of my viewing experience. A very similar feeling is what I got from this ending, but not quite as strong. A game that makes me feel that strongly, though, is certainly a special one, and I can say without a doubt that up to this point, that Inside is up there with the very best of the puzzle platformer genre that I've played. It's absolutely stellar, and Limbo, while not quite as good, is worth your time as well if you haven't played it yet. Both unique, truly singular experiences. Looking towards the future, Playdead, according to their website, is working on a 3D open-world sci-fi adventure set in a remote corner of the universe. It was revealed 9 years ago at this point though, so all I can hope for is that this project sees the light of day, because based on the concept art that they've revealed, it looks unbelievable. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like and subscribe. I did not expect to make this video at all, but I was so blown away by these games, specifically Inside, which I think is an actual masterpiece of game design. I just had to get this out there. Whatever Playdead does next, whatever this new game is, it has shot up my board for upcoming projects. I'm very, very excited. If you're seeing this now, a little later after this goes live, I will be streaming for the first time on this channel. I'll be playing Samson, a small open world Max Payne type of game created by, I believe, the creator of Just Cause and his new studio Liquid Swords. I am very excited for this game. It's $25 for what seems to be like 25 hours of content, so it's perfect. So feel free, come hang out for that. And yeah, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Goodbye.